Hey, you're listening to the Riverdale podcast. This is episode number 98. My name is Jonathan. Welcome to lovely Riverdale, USA. This is an Archie Comics fan podcast. We update every Saturday morning, and every week we break things down into 4 categories. The first category is the book of the week. That's the comic book I read this week. Sometimes it's a new comic book, sometimes it's an old comic book, but it's always an Archie comic book. We move then to the news of the week. That's what happened in the world of Archie in the week since our last podcast. We then move to new releases. That's what came out this past Wednesday. Will be coming up this coming Wednesday from Archie. And we're going to wrap up today talking about the upcoming 100th episode. We're 2 weeks out. I have big, cool plans, a big announcement at the end of the show. Stick around for that. Let's do it. Let's get on to the book of the week. This week's book of the week, finally, is Betty and Veronica, number 269. We have been waiting for this book to hit print. I have been waiting for it to show up in the print medium, because I like to wait till everybody has a chance to read it before I talk about it, or at least a chance. If you don't have it in your hands yet, you want to get this issue, and we'll get into why in just a moment. This showed up in the digital store weeks ago. I read it digitally. I loved it. Like I said, I've been waiting to talk about it with you guys. Super thrilled about this. We got a couple covers on this one by Dan Parent and one by Jeff Schultz. Super excited that I managed to get the variant cover by Jeff Schultz. This was described as a Rosie the Riveter style cover. I know that a listener of the show wrote in and told me this is in fact not inspired by Rosie the Riveter, but I forgot what he wrote in all those months ago when we first saw this cover. It was back in the fall, it feels like now. But in any event, it's a wartime era homage. Betty and Veronica in coveralls. With the red bandanas tied in their hair. You got to see it. It's fantastic, and just a great pencil-shaded drawing that Jeff Schultz did that was then colored by Tito Pina, and it has a nice painted kind of quality to it. Really terrific. Now, let's get into the inside of the book. This is Betty and Veronica in Just Another Day. It's a full 22-page, a book-length story featuring Betty and Veronica and all our favorite Riverdale kids in Riverdale, at Riverdale High. Everything that I've been excited about and waiting for in a Betty and Veronica comic. Here it is. First off the top, written by Dan Parent, pencils by Jeff Schultz, inks by Bob Smith, letters by Jack Morelli, colors by Glenn Whitmore. And this was solicited as a day in the life of Betty and Veronica and Archie. And it does just that. It starts out in the morning with them waking up. And it's a fun story. All of the pages are split into thirds for the most part, and it gives you a sort of a blow-by-blow of what Betty's doing from the time she wakes up to the time she goes to sleep, what Veronica's doing, what Archie's doing. And to a certain extent, I think you could go through and read their individual stories. The pages are really split up into thirds, and I'm just realizing this as I'm talking about it. I've read this a couple of times. I didn't realize. Most of the pages are split into thirds, and I thought that was an interesting choice because it makes the panels really nice and big, and it gives the overall pages a really magnified kind of feeling. But it also stands to give you 3 separate points of view as you're going through the day. And as a narrative goes, Pretty standard Archie fare here. This is Betty and Veronica both inviting Archie to the dance and waiting for him to decide, and they both get frustrated with him, and they both get frustrated with each other. It's a classic love triangle, but it's almost like a homecoming. We got all those storybook stories over the last year, and as fun as those were, and as much as I've talked about them, it's great to have all the kids back in Riverdale, and it's just a really sweet story. It really, if you had no concept of the characters, it would give you a nice introduction to them. It's almost like a little love letter to the whole love triangle. And, of course, we've got Jeff Schultz doing pencils in here. And for my money, Jeff Schultz does the best Betty and Veronica. He obviously spent a lot of time drawing these characters. But the way that he's willing to, here on this page 8, draw Veronica with actual flames coming out of her head, and there's a boy sort of recoiling from her as she's raging down the hallway, and he has big sweat beads coming off of his head too. There's a real sense of cartooning in the classic sense, and there's also a really nice adherence to the classic Dan DeCarlo house style. I think that, and I've said before that I think Schultz is the closest we're going to get to that Dan DeCarlo style. I think that while folks like Dan Parent and Fernando Ruiz are drawing Archie in a very conventional style, they each do have their own individual styles, which I like quite a bit. But I do really appreciate the way that Jeff draws, especially Betty and Veronica, to be very much like the classic Dan DeCarlo model. So this a super fun story. Great to see everybody back. Great to see we get a little nod to Dilton's crush on Betty, which is a really nice move. We get a little appearance by Cheryl Blossom, which is always super fun. And we wrap things up on a really, really sweet note. I won't spoil that for you if you don't have the issue in hand. But you got to go out and get this issue. It's like I said, it's a real homecoming. It's a lot of fun, and it's sweet. It's so sweet, and this is the kind of issue that's almost bittersweet in that I wish we could get one of these every month. I wish we could get an issue of Betty and Veronica like this more regularly. If we could have a monthly book of Betty and Veronica stories of this caliber, I would be beyond excited. I would be absolutely thrilled. But we will take what we can get, and what we can get is on at your shop now, available digitally now, Betty and Veronica number 269. All right, in Archie news this week, a couple pieces of news. First and foremost, this just came out yesterday, Friday, just as the sort of day was wearing down. We got the news that Afterlife with Archie number 3 has sold out. This came out 2 Wednesdays ago, about a week and a half ago. This is the 3rd consecutive sellout for Afterlife with Archie. And Archie has already announced a second printing coming out on February 19th. So this raises some questions for sure. Obviously, we don't know the print run necessarily of the Afterlife with Archie books. We don't know if they were able to, if they bumped up the print run. Generally, my general understanding of the comics industry is that issue number 1 of any book gets a healthy print run, and number 2 will be slightly smaller, and number 3 will be slightly smaller, with the idea that you're going to have decreased interest as the series continues, and eventually you'll sort of you'll hit a plateau of the readership, and you'll have a better idea of how much you should be printing. That is my basic layman's idea of how the comic book industry works. I don't know if after the huge success of Afterlife with Archie #1, they upped the print runs of #2 and 3, and whether Afterlife with Archie is then selling through these big, healthy, robust print runs, or whether the print runs remained as small as maybe they had planned them. We'll never actually know. I do know that all of these print runs, or rather all of these sellouts, are exciting. I think they're good publicity, and if nothing else, they give us more Francesco Francavilla covers to choose from. So Archie has already released the new cover for the second printing of #3. It looks fantastic, guys. We have an image of that up at RiverdalePodcast.com. You can go over and check that out. Also, this week, over at themarysue.com, we got the premiere of the cover images for Betty and Veronica #271. I believe this is going to be the second part of the Betty and Veronica World Tour. Maybe not World Tour. The Betty and Veronica leaving Riverdale storyline. I guess they're going to be traveling around the world to a certain extent. We'll wait and see with the next issue. But in any event, we've got two covers, a great-looking Dan Parent cover, again, and another terrific Jeff Schultz cover, which is, again, an homage to a classic image. This is Betty and Veronica both as Marilyn Monroe in the classic white dress with the fan underneath, or the vent underneath. Again, done in a similar style to the cover we just discussed with Betty and Veronica #269, that great pencil shading with great Tito Pina coloring over that, a very painted style. Looks really, really good. But that is going to do it for news this week. Again, Afterlife with Archie #3 sells out. Second printing is on its way. And the basic cover and variant cover for Betty and Veronica #271 is over at themarysue.com. Head over to RiverdalePodcast.com. You'll find the post there for this episode. We'll have links to both of those stories. New releases for this past Wednesday, January the 15th, are as follows. Of course, Betty and Veronica #269. It's a $2.99 comic. Also, this week we got Jughead Double Digest #199 for $3.99. Just one more issue left before that becomes the Archie and Jughead Double Digest moving forward. Also, this week, Mega Man #33. And Sonic the Hedgehog #256, both for $2.99. Looking ahead to next week, the 22nd, we get the Archie Funhouse Double Digest #1 for $3.99. This has a great Giselle cover on it. Love to see Giselle drawing the Archie characters. And I believe this is replacing the Archie and Friends Double Digest. Could be wrong on that. I don't think I am. Correct me if I am. But that's a new #1 Double Digest coming out next week for $3.99. Also next week, Betty and Veronica Double Digest #220 for $3.99. World of Archie Double Digest #36 for $3.99. And a couple of trades next week. Archie's Valentine, a rock and roll romance. This is a $10.99 trade paperback collecting the Archie marries Valerie storyline from almost 2 years ago, I think, within the regular Archie book. That's a fun storyline. Another alternate future of Archie's potential future spouse. That was a cool story done by Dan Parent. And that's being collected in a trade paperback coming out next week, as I said, for $10.99. Finally, next week on the 22nd, we're going to get Mega Man Volume 6 Breaking Point for $11.99. Over on the digital side of things, this week we got a digital exclusive, 150 pages. This is the Betty and Veronica Friendship Fun digital exclusive special. 150 pages for $4.99. So those are your new releases for this past Wednesday the 15th, this coming Wednesday the 22nd, and your digital releases of the week from Archie Comics. Finally today, let's talk about the Riverdale podcast episode number 100. Obviously, this is episode number 98. A couple weeks off is episode number 100. And I'm super, super excited to announce that Dan Parent will be joining us for episode number 100. Yay! If I had some streamers or some sort of whistles or something, I would be blowing at them and throwing them around the room and stuff. Really excited to have Dan Parent on for the show. Obviously, he's one of the major movers and shakers, one of the bigger architects of what's going on in Archie Comics right now. And I was able to sit down and have a chat with him at the Granite State Con back in September. If you search back in the late September episodes, you'll find that episode where we talked to him briefly. So what's cool about this is we get to talk to him with a couple issues into the Archie World Tour storyline, see what's going on with that. I definitely want to pick his brain about what's coming up with Kevin Keller, what we can expect from the new Betty and Veronica storyline. Obviously, he's got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of great things that we can pick his brain about. But what I am most excited about is that Dan has agreed to answer your questions as well. And this is where it gets exciting for me personally. This is an open call. This is an open solicit. If you have a question for Dan Parent, send it along. Send it over to riverdale.podcast@yahoo.com. And I've also set up a voicemail line. So if you want to call up and verbally leave a question for Dan Parent, the number is 573-427-2443. That is 5734-ARCHIE. Yes, I did that. I made that happen. So I'm really, really excited. So you can catch up with me in a number of ways. Send along your questions for Dan Parent, and depending on how many I get, I may have to cull them down a little bit. I'm not sure. I'll have a better sense of that next week. But you've got plenty of time to think of a question or send in the question you're already thinking of. I'm going to be accepting those solicits until probably the 26th or so, a week from Sunday, just so I have enough time to get everything together for when I speak with Dan. But I'm really, really excited, as I said, first and foremost, to have Dan on the show and talk to him about what has happened and what will be happening in Archie Comics. But I am doubly thrilled to make this a potluck, if you will, a sort of open source sort of interview, and really invite the community, the Archie fans community, in to be a part of this. I'm really, really thrilled about that. So please, by all means, be a part of it. Call and leave a voicemail at 573-427-2443. That's 5734-ARCHIE. You can also send me a message at riverdale.podcast@yahoo.com. You can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me a message on Twitter, I guess. Maybe better Facebook than Twitter. But in any event, you can catch up with me. You know where I am. And super, super excited. I'll remind you again, next week you'll have another day or so to get your questions in. But super, super thrilled. That's the plan for episode number 100, you guys. I could not be more excited. If you're a fan of the show, there are a couple of ways that you can help out financially if you choose to. If you listen to the show every week and you're excited about the show and you want to help out monetarily, that is always much appreciated. You can head over to riverdale.podcast.com. You can click that link to donate. You can donate any amount if you'd like. That is always an option. A great way to go, as well as head over to riverdale.podcast.com and click that link for TFAW, Things from Another World. This is a huge online comic shop. You can get all of your favorite Archie comics at terrific discounts. And just to highlight a few, you can head over there now. Head over to Riverdale Podcast. Click that link for Things from Another World. And pick up the Archie 1,000-page digest at 40% off, just $19.99. You can get Jinx, Little Missteps, the terrific OGN from earlier, from the middle of last year. Love Jinx, Little Missteps. You can get that in hardcover for just $10.19. That's 40% off. Or in softcover for $5.99. Again, 40% off. You can get some of the great IDW hardcover collections at great prices. Head over there and get the Harry Lucy, Best of Harry Lucy from IDW at 20% off, $19.99. Or get those great daily newspaper strip collections, the Archie Classic newspaper strip collections, 20% off, just $31.99 on that first volume, and 40% off for the second volume at just $23.99. As I said, Things from Another World is a great online comic shop. Get all of your Archie comics there. Get all of your comics there. They get a great selection of everything at discounted prices. And if you head over to RiverdalePodcast.com and click that link for Things from Another World, a portion of the money that you spend there will be sent to the show and help us keep things rolling here. So thanks for considering that. On the way out, I want to remind everyone to head over to RiverdalePodcast.com. There you'll see the cover for Betty and Veronica number 269. You'll find the links to the news stories we talked about earlier in the show. You'll get all the information you need to submit a question to Dan Parent for episode number 100 coming up. You'll find a link there to send us an email at riverdalepodcast@yahoo.com. Don't forget to like the show on Facebook, follow the show on Twitter. The show is also on Google+. I don't know much about it, but we are there as well. Over at riverdalepodcast.com, you're going to find a link to iTunes. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, get new episodes delivered every Saturday morning, and you'll also be able to write a review for the show. That is hugely helpful. If you like the show and you listen every week, a great way to help out is to write a review of the show. It boosts us up in the search engines. If folks are looking for Archie Comics content on iTunes, we will pop up, and that is what we want. The Riverdale podcast is part of First Comics News. Head over to First Comics News for podcasts, reviews, up-to-date news from the world of comics. firstcomicsnews.com. I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you all so much for listening. Again, my name is Jonathan, and I'll see you again next week here in lovely Riverdale, USA.